Welcome to today's Family Law Software webinar on Michigan child support. Let's get started. So what I'm sharing with you right now is a sample file that I have loaded in Family Law Software Cloud. So today's webinar is going to be in Family Law Software Cloud. If you're using the desktop version, you can upgrade to the cloud. If you stick with the desktop version, everything should look familiar as you have all of the same tools. It's just going to be offline. So again, today we are focused on Michigan child support. And so what I have done is I have loaded a sample file by going in settings. And so the child support calculator is going to be linked to all of your financial information. So if you entered your income and expenses for your financial statement and you come to your child support calculator, all of that information is going to flow over to the calculator and all of the other tools and reports. So to start off with, the first calculator that we have is called Quick. And so if you have a simple child support case or you're doing a consultation, this is a great screen to start. You're going to see child support is a live number at the top. And on the Quick calculator, we just ask for a few data points, which is going to be information regarding the children, tax status, wage, health, and then spousal support. And you're done. I'm going to delete spousal support so we can look at some of those tools later. And so what you're going to notice is if you're on the screen and you're wondering where does the bonus go, where do I click this button for tax elections, you want to switch to complete. So if your case is a little bit more complex, you want to switch to complete. When you are on the complete calculator, anything and everything that could affect your child support case will be on this screen located in one of these folders. Right now, I have the children's folder open, and you'll notice that the child support number has followed us to this screen, and all of the data from the previous screens is going to flow over. So you haven't wasted time if you started in the Quick and switched to complete. So when you go into the complete calculator in the sample file, you would see the children, Kim and Reese, and then you'd see the parties, Taylor and Blake. And so if you need to add children, you would click the add children box here. Each child will have their own line, including the overnights. And so what's going to happen is if I change overnights for, we'll say both children in this case, I'll change the overnights to 300, we'll instantly see the effect on child support, and then we'll calculate the remaining overnights to the second parent. Family Law Software is here to help. We have blue speech little bubbles everywhere. So if you have a question about what we mean by overnights, or in case of the tax dependency credits, you could click this blue bubble and we'll explain to you what we're looking for or what the current tax law is. So if you're ever stuck, you have help within the program. As far as taxes go, if the second parent we're going to claim one of the children and you see this text, this is a drop down. So I can drop down and select that Blake will be claiming this child for tax credits, and we instantly see an effect on child support. So it's that easy to change that. The default, though, will be whoever has the children the most will get all of the credits, and they'll be considered the custodial parent for the guidelines and IRS purposes. So anytime that you change overnights, I always say double check to make sure that these boxes reflect the situation. Overnights over here, and then the date of birth is going to be over here because we'll calculate the step down in the different levels of child support as you go. If let's say that one of these children does not belong to both Taylor and Blake, maybe Taylor has a child outside of the relationship, all you have to do is uncheck this box and the overnights will go away, and whoever name is in these boxes will be assumed to be the parent of that child who's also claiming that child for tax purposes. And so that's how you would add a child from outside of the relationship. You would add them like any other child, and you would uncheck that box. You'll notice that there's different hyperlink worksheets. So here for Michigan, if I click this box, the overnight worksheet, it'll show you how we've added up the overnights and how we've applied the statute in Michigan. So if you have any questions about that, you would click on this and it shows the multiple from your statute. So that was that first hyperlink. In the cloud, I can click the back button in my browser and it'll take me right back to where I started. I'm going to add this child back and we will do the same overnights for both children. And we will move on to income. So again, if you already did a financial statement or you've entered income and expenses over on the financial statement section, when you come here, you're going to see information is already populated, or if you're using the sample file, you'll see the exact same numbers. I have both of their incomes on an annual basis. But if your parties are reporting the information in a different way, so your client might say, well, I make $1,000 a week, I can type in 1,000 and then turn this into a weekly number. So the goal is that you don't have to pull out a calculator. However, the client gives you the information is how you put the information into the program. If the party is unemployed or an hourly employee or making minimum wage, we have this checkbox here. So if I check this box, we will apply the current minimum wage, which is currently $10.10 at 40 hours. And so this will be a weekly number, but it'll convert into the appropriate number for any of the reports. But on the calculator, it will show weekly. So if Taylor comes in and says, they make minimum wage or don't have a job, you can check that box. Or maybe Taylor is a contractor and makes $25 an hour. So I could just pop in $25 and it will update the calculation based off of the hourly wage. On the other side, I have Blake, and I'm just going to keep his income as annual. The next box is going to be self-employment. So remember, Family Law Software is always asking for gross income because we are calculating the taxes in the background. So again, if we go on with the same scenario that Taylor is a contractor, all I would do is click this box and she will be fully subject to the self-employment tax. So that assumes that they are a 1099 worker. If there's businesses, we have ways of entering business income as well. And last is going to be your local tax rate. So Family Law Software is going to calculate federal and state taxes automatically, but we do not know if or what the local tax rate is. And so you would pop that in right here. The other big factor that's going to affect their taxes is going to be the filing status. Family Law Software is going to assume that whoever has the children the most within the household, that they will qualify for head of household. That doesn't mean that the other party is automatically single for federal tax purposes, but we will assign them single. This is a drop down. So in this case, if Blake is joint with a new spouse, separate, or qualifies for head of household, then you would want to make one of those selections. So at this point, you might be thinking, am I doing this right? So child support is currently about $2,100 and it's paid by Blake. At any time in this process, you can click print guideline. And if you click print guideline, we're going to show you the calculation and how we have come up with the calculation. So as you come here and you see, okay, this is where the numbers are going. This is how the final child support result is being calculated. If anything here looks off, there was an extra zero, you forgot to put an income source, the parties, there should be certain adjustments that you expected. You just go back to the calculator and you would make those updates there. The other great thing about coming here for printing is we have these worksheet attachments. So if you're wondering, well, how is this being calculated or where are these numbers coming from once they are being totaled, you would just click worksheet and this will show all of the sources of income that you have put in so far. And you could click PDF in the top right-hand corner, and this could be an exhibit or an attachment to any of your filings, or for the client to review, or for your fact finder. So let's go back into the calculator. And so we were discussing tax filing status, and we talked about printing, and then that income worksheet would match the worksheet that is attached in the printing for the guidelines. So let's talk about other sources of income. So the next one is what we call wage-like income. Some of these income sources could be on a pay stub, but a lot of them are not. So I call it funny money. So the next folder is income. And so you want to put the income source on the correct line. Why? It might be taxable, it might be non-taxable, it might be subject to FICA, it might not be. So you want to make sure that you're putting the income on the correct line. So for instance, here with the bonus, if I click here, Anytime that you click a field that is asking for a number, you'll see like the hashtag and a calculator. So usually when people get paid their bonus, it's usually on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis. So what I could do is here, I'll say the bonus is $24,000 a year, and then Family Law Software is going to calculate the monthly, annual, etc. So I would click OK, and then that box is going to update with the bonus, the annual bonus broken down into a monthly number. So anytime I click a number field, you can see the calculator and the hashtag. So enter in the income sources, you'll see that there's a taxable, non-taxable button here. And so if you happen to know that that income source is non-taxable, then you want to click that button. Over here, you're seeing all of these sources of income. You might say, wait a minute, this shouldn't affect child support. And so if you see that, the reason we have it here is we want to collect all the financial information so we know how much income is available. But if I click one of these blue bubbles, it'll let me know public assistance is not a part of the calculation, but it's good to know what their true available net income is later. And so that's why we're asking for the information. So if you ever see something that you think that shouldn't affect child support, you're right. Click the blue bubble and we'll explain to you that we're not factoring that into the child support calculation. So work your way through, pop in those numbers. If the parties have a strange source of income, Taylor and Blake have their own sections here. You can use this for lots of different purposes. Let's say that they're in the military and they have a housing allowance, or they work for an employer that covers a lot of interesting things like a vehicle or some type of reimbursable expenses, and you want to put those separate as income and make them non-taxable, you could. So you can use these lines for strange types of incomes that you want to keep separate. And so each party is going to have that column. The last form of income is going to be the Social Security derivative benefit received on behalf of the child. And so what we mean by that, if you want to click the bubble, we'll have an entire explanation about what that means and how it's being treated according to your statute. And so there's multiple boxes. So I always tell parties to slow down because what is asking is received. So whoever is receiving the check, that's where whoever's receiving that check in the mail, you're going to go to their column first. And then the follow-up question is, why is that party receiving the check? Are they receiving the check because of their own disability, which would be the first box? Or is Taylor receiving that check because of Blake's disability, so the other party's disability, or there could be a third party involved? So if there is a Social Security derivative benefit that the child is receiving, go to the column of the person, the recipient of those funds, and then pay attention to why they are receiving those funds so we can properly do the calculation. Right, the next one. If you have older clients, wealthier clients, you may need to go to this income source, why investment income, dividends, IRAs, etc. So we put that as the last form of income because it's less common when you have minor children, but it is possible. Again, think about wealthy or older clients that might be receiving these forms of income. More commonly is going to be businesses. So if the client has a business, Family Law Software has a lot of tools to handle that because of the tax implications. So if you have clients that own businesses, check out the section. You want to pay attention to the entity formation, and then you want to click that green box for other tax issues that could be affecting a business. All right. Next, we're going into deductions, adjustments, and results. So why don't we open up the deduction folder? If the parties have property and you want to see how property taxes and interest, mortgage interest are affecting their tax calculations, check out that worksheet. Here, we're also dealing with retirement contributions. So you can see here we have mandatory retirement payments, and then we have contributions up here. So know that mandatory, a lot of times you want to think about state employees, like they're forced into this retirement plan and they must make contributions, versus an employer matching program where they say 3% we're matching. So think about voluntary versus involuntary. And so make sure that it's going into that right section. So you've got your contributions versus your mandatory payments. So know those distinctions. Insurance premiums, so think about, life insurance or extra disability policies. That's what we're talking about. When you click add here, there could be an asset portion. It could just be a payment. Deductions. So this is, again, money that's leaving their available income. So if they are paying alimony or spousal support to another party outside of this relationship, then you're looking for this option here. All right, perfect. And then contributions to retirement plans up to that 5.5%, you're going to have to do that calculation yourself and pop that number in here. Do not just do the total amount. We're not going to reduce that retirement contribution, and then costs due to court proceedings. So that's going to be those dependency cases. So you can click that blue box to learn more. Again, did you do this right? What did we do? If you want to see the totals, we have a deductions worksheet at the end of the section. That same worksheet is going into the print guideline section. So why don't we click deductions worksheet? And you can see here the taxes. I can look at the tax worksheet, the other deductions worksheet, and then we'll show you the total that's going to be going on to the guideline. So this is all about showing you the work behind our calculation. All right, so the last folder here is adjustments. And so this is where your health insurance is going to be completed. And so we are asking for the total health insurance that the party's paying. So in this case, let me just say that Blake's paying $1,200 a month. I can then click on this tax worksheet, and then you can see that $1,200 follows us here, or I could put it here. And so that $1,200, the number of children, the number of adults, and then we're showing you the income shares and the final numbers that are going to flow to your worksheet. If you need to make any updates, so health insurance can be complicated. Blake might have a family plan and he's still paying for Taylor or children from another relationship or another spouse. So if you need to override the number of children or the number of adult participants, know that you can override that information here. So this is going to be the appropriate place to do that. Again, health insurance doesn't contemplate these issues a lot of times. So unfortunately, we have to get creative and we have to follow the state guidelines as to how to apply those deductions. All right, I'm going back in my browser. So that was health insurance with the health insurance worksheet. And then obviously childcare is a big one. So in this case, let's say that they spend $1,200 a month in childcare. I can go again, just like I did for health insurance, I can click this worksheet. That worksheet follows me to the print guideline as well. And so this is showing the amount of childcare that they're spending. We assume that those dollars are being used for all of the children. If only one child is in daycare, then again, you can override these numbers, but we're going to assume that all of the children are under that daycare cost, and you can update that here. Or if they're sharing the cost, then you would put what Blake is paying versus what Taylor's paying, and again, update the number of participants. Right. If there's any other adjustments that you want to factor in, you can pop in a positive or a negative number here. So you can just add that right in there, and I can click results, and then we will show you how much the income is and the income shares. All right, let's print again. So I can use these hyperlinks to go to my print options, or I can click print guideline. So we previously came to this and you saw all of the worksheets again that were following us through the calculator are also on our print screen. I can click PDF in the top right-hand corner, and that will be my attachment. If you want to print the Uniform Michigan Guidelines, all you would have to do is come down here where it says print other Michigan forms. If I click print other Michigan forms and I open up this folder, you can see we have the Uniform Child Support Order. So we have two versions of that. And all I would have to do is click enter data. So if I click enter data, I can see what's already here, or I can fill in the gaps. So as you scroll through, all of the information that we have from the child support calculator is going to be here. I always suggest that you have those worksheets as attachments to this. So you would use your PDF editor to put those together. So any information here that you need to add, You would just add it in and then click PDFs. And so child support, our version is going to be located here versus if you want to use the uniform child support order, that would be located here. All right, let me go back to child support and I'm going to scroll up to the top. So Family Law Software has a lot of information and a lot of users see the quick and complete, but a lot of times they skip over the graphs. And so right now we know that child support is going to be $2,971 paid by Blake. But what does that mean for the parties? If I click graphs, this is going to have some visual representations of the data so that you can see how child support is impacting the parties. So you can see here, this is Taylor and Blake before child support is a factor. And then when I come over to these two bars, we're seeing the impact of child support. In this particular case, it acts almost as an equalizer. And so if you have a case and you've calculated child support and you need or want to do some alimony analysis, we do have tools in the program to help you. So first, a lot of times starting with the graphs is a really great place. We also have the impact for the payor and the recipient. So if I click payer, I can see here that in this case, Blake is the payer of child support, and that's consuming about 19% of his available income. 25% of that is going to taxes. And all of this yellow is available funds that Blake has for his expenses, his living expenses. And so part of this yellow graph you might want to allocate to spousal support. How would you do that? So Family Law Software, under the analysis, these are going to be your spousal support tools. We have a video that we have done just on spousal support tools, and I'll link that in the description box below. So if you want to learn more about that, go into the spousal alternative tools. But a really great place to start is just doing your child support data and checking out these graphs, and then obviously printing your child support results. Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Our information is in the description box, and thank you so much for joining us.